everyone, and welcome to Eternal Mooncast, the streaming show all about Sailor Moon fan theories. We cover everything from the prominent to the obscure in the Mooniverse. We're your co-hosts, Michi and Azira, and tonight is our special guest, Grayson, also known as the Sailor Moon Guy. All
Hi,
right.
everyone.
He is the self-proclaimed big brother of the Sailor Moon community who makes Sailor Moon edits. He is the eldest of 7 siblings. When he's not working as an analyst, he likes to read, write, draw, play video games, and watch anime and read comics and manga. He's been a Sailor Moon fan for over 20 years and is the co-host for Double Moonlight Justice podcast. Welcome to Sailor Moon Guy.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank
Thanks for
you.
being here
Thank
tonight.
you for having me.
But first, before we go into anything, as always, my beautiful disclaimer, everyone. Our quick Mooney disclaimer. We would like to remind everyone that these are just our personal opinions. We do not in any way represent Toei or the Sailor Moon intellectual property. We invite you tonight to join us as we stream live or join us in our Discord discussions. We are always looking for more discussions up in there. We'd also like to thank our Twitch and Patreon subscribers. You help make the Mooney magic. Tonight, we delve into Queen Nehelenia.
Now, it's funny because you picked Azira's favorite villain.
My favorite villain too. So I'm really excited.
I got
worship the ground that she walks on.
Nehelenia is amazing to me. She's like the Maleficent of Sailor Moon. So I love Maleficent from Disney.
She almost won. So that's
Yes.
You're still upset about that.
And she's a villain you root for.
yeah. You were like, she's gonna win. And you're like, no, she's not. The hero always wins.
I'm excited to really get into her because we touched on her. We did a whole episode on the episodes between supers and stars, focused in on just that. And that was a really great deep dive into how it's related to the Steel Queen and all that. But I think
more on the scouts, but we did touch base on a lot of the story that was going on with Nehelenia, but we've never dedicated an episode to her. So I'm just like,
Zero is say less.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start off talking about manga Queen Nehelenia, because manga Queen Nehelenia is a bit of a different beast. And as I'm going to lean on you for your manga expertise.
in the manga, you don't get the story that you get in the anime. You get she's in the mirror that's in the freaking castle. And you first see her when it's in, was it Eternal for the movie?
Eternal.
Sailor Moon Crystal.
Yes.
So the movies for Crystal, where Queen Serenity is holding her child and the girls are there and you see her just like up here in the mirror, like the creepy boogeyman.
Yeah.
And she's just referenced as like this dark entity. But what I love in the manga is they give this image and it's her and Queen Serenity back to back.
Yes.
So it's a very hard implication that essentially that Queen Serenity is the light of the moon, but Queen Nehelenia is the dark side of the moon. But we don't get you get a little bit less of Nehelenia in the manga because she's in the background in a mirror when it comes to the Dead Moon Circus.
Yeah. Because is she
So-
like the main baddie still, or is that still, I get them mixed up.
She's the main baddie of
Yes.
Dark Moon Circus art. Like she's the final boss. Like
Yeah.
the other people are mini bosses.
Okay. But God, what good mini bosses. The Amazon Trio, the Amazoness Quartet. Like,
She's more in the background. She doesn't start really appearing until the end of her
Right.
arc when you start like finding out like what's going on and all this stuff. And Chibiusa ends up meeting her and that sort of deal. So that's the huge difference. I mean,
Yeah.
you see it in the anime where in the original, like I'm talking 90s, you did see her more
Yes.
as a background. But then she was there and talking to the girls more than she did in the manga. So
yeah. All right. But you know what? But that manga art piece is really iconic. And Naoko, I think, likes to put in little tidbits and little Easter eggs. But I don't know. Grayson, what do you think about manga Queen Nehelenia?
Like most manga villains, they tend to be one-dimensional, in my opinion. And it's not to say that they don't have character, but the anime definitely dives a little bit deeper into the character and their development and stuff like that. So you definitely get more of a sense of who Nehelenia is as a person in the anime versus the manga. But the one thing I do like about the manga is that Nehelenia has a direct tie to the lore of Sailor Moon, whereas she is, in her mind, responsible for what's happening in the series. She said her curse was the one that brought down the silver millennium and therefore has brought events to where they are at this point in time. So it's a big revelation as far as the manga is concerned. I think that that's one thing I do like about the Nehelenia chaos aspects is that it all comes full circle in the manga versus the anime, which was like doing its own thing.
And boy, did it ever do its own thing. It did it with gusto.
Yes,
There's some parts in the manga that sometimes don't add up, but when it comes
exactly.
to Nehelenia's character, she was, like I said, it shows a flashback of her being there in the Silver Millennium. And if I remember correctly, like, was told to never go near the mirror. Like, she was
Yeah.
not supposed to go near it. She wasn't supposed
Yes.
to look in it, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's a little bit more interesting because she's one of the characters that has a stronger connection to Usagi because Beryl really doesn't, because Usagi didn't know who the hell she was.
Right.
No, Beryl had this whole backstory in her head where she was going, it was like toe to toe. And then it's like,
So
Right.
who are you?
I was like I said, Beryl was a peasant
Right.
who was just happened to have a crush on the prince and all that kind of stuff happened. And then you've got the Black Moon clan who really don't, they've got a connection with future, like Neo Queen
Mhm.
Serenity, but Queen Nehelenia is from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I would have loved to learn more about younger Queen Serenity because you can tell that Nehelenia was alluding to something.
I was just
Something
about to say that.
happened to get her into that mirror, and Queen Serenity put her there. So
Right.
I would have loved it makes you want to learn more because you're like, what happened? What'd
Yeah.
you do?
Nehelenia definitely alludes to the fact that Serenity herself is not even from the moon. We all came from the same place. So our origins are the same. So for her to treat her with such disdain when she appears it's Nehelenia, girl, we from the same place. What are you talking about?
There's a score that needs to be settled between those two. And
The biggest theory is that they're twin sisters.
ooh,
Like a lot of that's one of the biggest theories is were they twin sisters and there was a fight for the crown, that sort of thing. And you always get the reference to the dark side of the moon when people talk about the moon. And did she turn to this or was she the queen of the other side of the moon?
it's hard to say because we don't get a lot. And as soon as Queen Nehelenia comes out, Serenity puts her right back in that mirror.
I think it's also very interesting how they say the quiet part out loud where this, I have these thoughts. This is what I want to say. It's very hard for me as a content creator, especially around Sailor Moon, to be very mindful of what I'm saying about Sailor Moon and making sure that I have my facts straight because people are quick to correct us
Yeah.
and they're quick to tell us how they feel the story actually went. And it's okay. I love your perspective, but I just can't really get into the deep end with you about it. I have my own personal feels, but we're also engaging new fans, and it's very important for us to be unbiased and objective when it comes to the Sailor Moon more, because it's like you need to
Mhm.
make your own interpretation of it. And I have to basically I have to stick to like what's in the anime or what's on the page in the manga before delving into any speculation or theories,
Mhm.
because then it gets taken out of context from the Sailor Moon guy said.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Mhm. You're just
I-
like, it's just a theory. I think it's cool. My
oh,
imagination made it up. Okay.
all right. But then is there something you wanted to talk about otherwise specifically with the Sailor Moon manga?
She actually does get defeated in the manga.
Oh, she
Yes.
does?
Like she gets
Yeah.
Yeah,
she gets
remind me because it's been a minute.
they end her.
Yeah.
Yeah. They end her.
They end
And
her. She doesn't get
yeah,
to go back in the mirror. They end her.
the revelation between her and Zirconia is definitely downplayed in the manga in comparison to the anime.
Although the zirconian in the manga is horrifying. The
She's
one that's in the mirror is
yeah.
terrifying.
She's so OP.
Mhm.
I was actually looking at the manga yesterday and today, so I was just like, she when she first appears, she just seems like this meek character, but when it's time to go, she is literally like huge and menacing, and she's just like throwing the Sailor Guardians into these nightmares at a on a whim. Like it's like that. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing, like the amount of power that she wields in her as Zirconia. Like that's not even like Nehelenia.
Yeah.
And it's just the differences between the two counterparts is very stark. Zirconia was just like wild and out. Like she was just like, I'm about to take you all out right now. Like she
Mhm.
did not waste any time. She was like on a mission.
I almost wondering, by the way, feel free to not answer any of these questions if you don't feel comfortable, okay?
Okay.
Because we like to do a lot of theories around here. What if Zirconia was more evil than Queen Nehelenia ever was?
It is alluded that Zirconia is the mirror. In the anime, it says it, and it alludes it in the manga. I believe it because Zirconia is the mirror, I feel like. Or
I
whatever species
mhm.
Zirconia is the
Yeah.
mirror.
I think I definitely think that Zirconia is like the nightmarish version of Nehelenia. So I think that just like Azira was saying, like how horrifying she is like a nightmare embodied. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the reasons like why she was like literally just going all out. And I think in comparison to Nehelenia, there's definitely a little demureness, a little subduedness when it comes to Nehelenia herself. And I think it's almost like a split personality where Nehelenia is not able to act in its capacity, but Zirconia can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can see that.
Zirconia worships that beauty and is willing to protect the beauty to be able to still look at it, even though under that beauty, Millennia looks just like Zirconia.
And I think it's like also like a way to not taint the beauty that's there. I can't justify me doing these evil actions as my beautiful self because of what beauty represents
Mhm.
or the standards.
Mhm.
Whereas this nightmarish, ugly version of myself can do those things.
Oh, I love that.
She can't break her nails, like, she just got them done, like, you're gonna send Zirconia out to do them, she can pop hers off all she wants.
But I love that point, Grayson. That's a wonderful point about Nehelenia. Or Nehelenia is a fashion icon.
So I've
Totally,
cosplayed her.
very wonderfully.
I'm 6'3" when I cosplay her. I love that's my favorite cosplay, hands down. I need to
Oh,
actually revamp it.
yes, you do. All right. And then is there anything else we want to talk about Queen Nehelenia in the manga before we go on to, and just specifically in the manga before we move on?
Mm,
Well, I touched on pretty much all of my notes in that regard. So
yeah, like I said, Nehelenia's arc isn't huge
Yeah.
in the manga. The anime gave it a lot more, which was fantastic
yeah,
because they gave each mini villain their own spot. But it's just Sailor Moon's pretty fast paced.
yeah,
I think the people who got the longest was Stars got quite a bit, but it was like The Witches 5,
yeah.
Yeah.
like
I think
Hotaru.
Infinity was probably the longest.
Yeah, Hotaru's arc got way
Mhm.
more, and the Black Moon Clan. Beryl was
Yeah.
like,
I think the last thing I would point about the manga is the parallels to Sleeping Beauty are very strong in the manga in comparison to the anime.
Mm,
That was very apparent. Even just reading the manga, and she was like, "I too shall give a gift to the child." Like it was just,
I
I was
feel
like,
out.
"It's just right there."
What could that mean? All right. Then shall we move on to 90s anime specifically, Queen Nehelenia?
I loved her
I'm
so
ready when you
much.
are.
Oh my god.
I love her.
Yeah,
Nehelenia was I watched her on a VHS I but I saw the last arc.
so did
Like
I.
when they're doing the 6 episode arc is when
Mhm.
I first got introduced to her. So I fell in love with her then.
Me too.
Yeah.
And that was because of Tate's Comics, because where I lived in Florida back then. I was like, "Oh, I wanna watch these episodes. I wanna see what happens." And it was that arc, and I was like, "Oh my god, I love her." And the anime gives us so much more to her
Yes.
than the manga was ever allowed to flesh out. And her voice actress,
Japanese one?
oh my god, the Japanese voice actress for her,
Yes.
stunning, sensational, goosebumps.
I actually
Um,
also like the English one.
I
Which
love the
one?
first one.
Which one? The Viz or the Clover Way?
Whoever got to voice her first.
I want to talk about Clover Way voices. Just because I love the way they direct her. I'm a huge fan of the cheese. Just a huge fan of the cheese. I can't help myself. I'm a dad joke kind of girl. This is my jam. Let's first listen to the Clover Way, which is the one I grew up on. I don't know about you two. And I
Sure.
agree, her Viz voice actor is solid too. Here we go. And this is from Princess Kaguya on YouTube. Thank you for having such awesome clips available.
So close yet so far. Elias, the guardian of the golden crystal, you're my prisoner. But where is your golden crystal that I long to hold in my hands? Zakuria! You've been summoned.
Yes, your highness. Your wish is my command, my fair Queen Nehelenia.
I'm tired of waiting. At last the time is near for us of the Dark Moon to seize this planet. Our reign is about to begin. You agree it will be a wondrous, glorious day?
Yes, your highness. All the more glorious because you, Queen Nehelenia, will...
I just
Shout
love.
out to
I
Princess
love
Kaguya.
Zakuria's voice, I forgot.
Sorry, what did
Shout
you
out
say,
to
Grayson?
I wanted to give a shout out to Princess Kagayaki. She is an amazing voice actress, and she definitely gave us all the Deke feels when Deke was no longer on the air. And she gave us so much we couldn't get like Sailor Stars and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see her do those voices and come up with her own.
Oh my god, Zirconia, I'm cracking up. I forgot how much of a gremlin the original.
It is a very specific voice for Zirconia.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just like, "Oh my god." That's why I was cracking up so hard over here. I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot."
It's always interesting, especially like the dub version of Zirconia, not just in America, but it's always interesting that they decide to make her a man in the other dubs.
Yeah.
And I never understood like the reasoning behind it.
I don't get it. Is it just, there's no, I can't even think of what the directors were thinking.
Especially when you see the later episodes that the two are clearly connected. Like it's just like,
Maybe they didn't have anybody that came forward with a gravelly enough voice, like, to be an old witch?
possibly, possibly.
I don't know, sometimes they take that direction, I'm like, "Wasn't that character female?" Or
But
you're
that
like,
was,
"Wasn't that character a guy?" So I say,
And it's also interesting for like the Cloverway, when the Cloverway season aired, and this is something I learned from a friend of mine,
yeah.
was that Cloverway is the Mexican production company that did the Mexican dub. So a lot of the changes as far as the music and some of the transformation phases like Cosmic Moon Dream Action are translations of the Spanish. So they weren't
Really?
necessarily using the Japanese script. They were using the Spanish scripts that they were translating. I thought that
That's
was
really
interesting.
cool.
so a translation on a translation.
Yes.
No, but anything else, I think her voice is very distinct and iconic. Now, she has a much different voice in Viz. Like, 100, have you both heard her Viz voice?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think As has. Would you mind if
Oh,
we played one clip of it?
I have not heard Viz yet.
And this is from GN Plus, Gabe Nabala Plus on.
Do you feel it? Do you feel everyone's hearts? All of this energy that we've brought together is for you, Nehelenia.
back. Try to remember your biggest dream as a child.
My biggest dream as a child? It feels so warm. That's right. The thing I dreamed of was having friends. People whom I could talk to whether I was happy or sad. Is it really possible to start over?
And that was Sailor Moon, Sailor Stars, Viz Dub, episode 172. Usagi sends Nehelenia home. Stephanie Shea, Laura Post for the title.
I'm like this. I'm like,
It's a good
that
ending. It's a
scene makes me
beautiful
cry
ending.
every fucking time.
No, definitely. And then Oda coming in saying, I just don't like Stephanie Shea as Usagi. She's not a bad actor, but the voice doesn't feel like Usagi. But this is about Nehelenia. Interesting to use this clip. I would have thought to use a clip of her being more evil. Okay, you got me. You got me.
I think it was a good representation of her voice. Laura Post did a great job as Laura Post or Post.
And Post, I think.
Okay, yeah, I think Laura did a great job. She's also Roxanne from Megamind.
Really?
Yes. So I love doing like behind the scenes stuff like that. So I'm like, the voice sounds familiar. I was like, oh yeah, it's Roxanne from Megamind. I agree. I'm not too big of a Stephanie Shea fan as Usagi, but I do know, and that's my nostalgia bias to me because I'm so used to the English Sailor Moon voice being a little bit deeper in comparison to the Japanese version. And I know that I think Tuxedo Unmasked mentioned this where it's like Naoko wanted the voice cast to be as close to the Japanese counterparts as possible. So I think that's why Stephanie Shea was picked. I wish Stephanie Shea took some notes out of Katona Mitsuishi and inflected her voice a little bit differently when she was like Neo Queen Serenity. But Stephanie Shea definitely captured the high pitchedness of Usagi's voice, in my opinion.
Hear it when I was listening. It was she's not
Emoting.
she's just not inflecting correctly as she's
Right.
speaking. So it
Yeah.
jars you a little bit. Like I could get used to it being a higher pitched voice, like in higher range than other
Yes.
Sailor Moons, but she's just not hitting the marks that we need to be able to
Right.
enjoy it in English, essentially.
I agree. And Tracy Moore, who was the first deep dub voice for Sailor Moon, had a high pitched voice and she nailed it. And I think, and this, I do want to do like an English deep dive into on my podcast because I think, especially now in the advent of anime being mainstream, I think what we've gotten away from is localization is not bad. Bad localization is bad. And I think that's like where we got it, where it's like people want a faithful adaptation of the source, but it doesn't translate as well as it should. And I think that's where localization comes into play. But I think that because of the treatment that Sailor Moon got, I think that one of the reasons why the Viz dub is super duper faithful, it doesn't, and I think that's where the inflection comes in, where it's like they're not able to make it their own in such a way.
It's just there's some animes that have come over here, and the English is better than the Japanese, like Sayuki or Black Lagoon.
Anarchy Yu Hakusho.
Like those came over here, and I was like, I was like, let me watch it in Japanese, and I went, watch this in English. It's way better English than it is in Japanese. So it depends on
Johnny Young Bosch did a great job with Trigun. So
yeah,
and
Trigun was very good.
And he was the Black Power Ranger. The cast is out there.
Yes.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
Full Metal Alchemist. So it's all about just, you also have to get the right directors who are telling these voice actors, hey, you're not hitting your cues. And wrapping back to Nehelenia, I didn't mind the newer voice. However, the first one we watched, which was Clover Way, is that what that was?
Yeah.
She
That was
sounded like a villain.
That was actually. Princess
Was that a
Kaguya.
fan?
Oh, that's what I thought you were saying, and I wasn't 100% sure. Can we circle back? So I did not realize that at all.
Yeah.
It was so
It's
good.
fantastic.
So she does all of the English Sailor Moon voices. Tracy Moore, Terry
Go
Hawk
back to her page.
does great. She has done great content. I would love to have her on a podcast one day because she just
Is she mimicking,
blows.
or is that her
She's
voice? Is she mimicking?
So Nehelenia did not have a Deke voice because Deke never did
Oh.
Super, but Cloverway did. But it's like she did her own Nehelenia voice in the Deke style. So that's her take on Nehelenia in the Deke version. But she does do imitations of Tracy Moore, Terry Hawks, Linda Ballantyne, all the English Sailor Moon actresses, and she nails it every time.
Wow. Oh, I had no idea. Yeah, because this was never dubbed.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had no idea. I'm
a
so
big Princess
good.
Kaguya fan, so I was like so stoked when you pulled up her clip, but it is a fan dub.
She did
Glad you-
fantastic. I liked
Oh.
her voice
Yes.
because it sounded like a villainess.
Yes.
Now subscribe, turn on the bell. Like,
Yes.
So you'd have to find a Cloverway clip of
Okay,
Nehelenia.
I actually have one. I think this is for real. I have no faith in myself after that, but it is from Sailor
It
Mars
says Cloverway dub.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
from Sailor Mars Says, who we've featured on the channel before, and she has great stuff on YouTube.
Please show me the future of my exceptional beauty. I dream I will keep this beauty I possess for all eternity. Please show me I will be beautiful forever. What is that? This can't be.
Yes, it is your future.
Never doubt the Never doubt the dreams of innocent children. Never doubt your worst nightmare.
I shall never doubt the power of innocent dreamers. I shall never doubt the dreams of innocent children. I shall never doubt my worst nightmare. I shall use the power of innocent dreamers. I shall use the dreams of innocent children. I shall preserve my dream. My worst nightmare will be somebody else's.
I just love her so much. Is that a fake?
Laconia sounded like Yoda.
If you believe in the power of dreams, you will.
Oh my god! But I don't
And
know.
maybe why they chose the English voice. Like maybe, oh, it looks like Yoda. Let's do an old man.
The voice is so different to me. I think she has such range, and I agree with Oda. It was so campy. I love
Yes.
the campiness.
Yes.
Sailor Moon is the best Sailor Moon.
It really is though.
Hands down.
Like, I love it.
Go bleach your roots, creep. To
Iconic.
this day lives in my head. Rent free forever. I think so. The 90s anime, the reason why I enjoyed so much and reason why Crystal to this day pisses me off. The Eternal movies, I was pissed that we got movies and we didn't get a series. I am still salty. I will remain salty forever. I don't care if it was a short part of the manga. I was like, y'all gave us filler episodes for the beginning of Crystal. You could have done Queen Nehelenia. Because the movies are great. They're cool. Whatever. I feel that the art isn't as good. Now, Cosmos, art fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Nehelenia's arc, I felt the art was lackluster and stuff like that. I understand it's not in the manga, but my favorite part of Nehelenia's arc is the story we actually get for Nehelenia. And we just saw it when we were watching the one clip where they're sending her back. Nehelenia doesn't die in the 90s anime. She thinks she wins first. She goes back to sleep in her mirror because she believes she's won. She believes that she has killed Sailor Moon and Chibiusa. She goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
And she was fine. And then Galaxia wakes her back up. And it's funny because Nehelenia thinks she's been asleep for a moment when Galaxia is waking her back up. And it hasn't even been that long. I think it's been a couple weeks since they defeated Nehelenia. It's only been like a couple weeks. This woman thinks she's been down and out for a couple years.
Right.
You also just get like the mirror dancers. Like, you
Oh,
got
I
this
love
really cool thing. You got Saturn's reawakening with Nehelenia waking up. And it's interesting because you see this connection with Galaxia. Oh, I think we've got some of that into the next one. And we'll
Okay.
just keep going. We're just going into the next section. Because it
Go
is
for
the
it.
anime. We're
Yeah.
not
Right.
technically
Mhm.
going away from the anime when it comes to this. I think it's interesting because you see Galaxia show up and it's just a shadow of her, but she gives Nehelenia her own mirror. And Nehelenia shatters it, and then the pieces go all over.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, Nehelenia almost won.
Mhm.
So close.
She is the only villain to have gotten away from the scouts thinking she won. Because all the other villains, you got Beryl, you've got the Doom Tree doesn't count. They healed themselves with the power of love. You've got the Black Moon Clan. All of them get offed
Except for the
except for the
sisters.
sisters.
Only a handful of villains made it out of the anime.
The Witches 5 didn't.
They did that
Uh,
to themselves. This is the part.
yeah. Mistress Nine's defeated because she was inside Hotaru, but she's really the only villain who comes close to almost killing them.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
she just away. So I think that was, first of all, interesting in general because she does get in the manga. So moving into between her and Galaxia, this is the only time we see Galaxia really.
Mhm.
It's just her waking her up, giving her the mirror, and being like, hey, go fuck shit up.
Basically.
That's and it's interesting. I understand it's meant to be filler episode. I wish they had Galaxia reference it again.
She did.
Did
Oh,
she?
she did?
Remember? Did she
Mhm.
at the end when she gets? I'm trying to remember.
So when she's fighting against the outer guardians in her throne room, she tells them, like, because Sailor Saturn was getting ready to destroy her. Remember? She was
Yes.
like, "I'm going to sacrifice my life to destroy you because you're evil and crazy."
Mhm.
And Galaxia was like gloating. She's like, "You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me because Nehelenia agreed to work with me to awaken you guys because I needed your star seed." And Saturn tells her, like, "No, you woke her up and you antagonized her against us. Like, she didn't do it out of the kindness of her heart. Like, you manipulated her."
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to rewatch that because I'm like,
Yeah. That was the one thing that stayed Saturn's hand from destroying her was that
mhm.
interaction. And then she destroyed the Garnet Rod and the Silence Glaive
Mhm.
both after that interaction.
That was a wild few time in Sailor Moon. It
Yeah.
went from this happy-go-lucky show, we're going ice skating, we're gonna go eat crepes, things are joyous and
To death.
happy, and yes.
You die and you get a death
Right.
too.
Yes. I think S was definitely the turning point for the series. And it definitely had a darker tone in comparison to Supers, which definitely went in the opposite direction. And I think that's one of the reasons, like, I think Tuxedo Unmasked mentioned, like, it's one of the lowest rated seasons of Sailor Moon. And it's the least liked because it was more child friendly and comedic than the other seasons. And I think Stars was like a about face, but it was also like going in a darker direction, which is why I think that's one of the reasons why they ended Supers the way they did with Nehelenia, going back to sleep and then waking up in Star, because it was a great transitionary period because even though Sailor Moon is a part of the title, the show was called Sailor Stars.
Yes.
So I think that was one of the reasons why they split the season up in that way and did those 6 episodes. I don't necessarily think it was filler, but I think it was more segue episodes to say, this is the same show you're watching. It's just a continuation. So I think that was very interesting observation.
It's a really smart way to do it when you think about it
Mhm.
It's one
like
of my
that.
favorite seasons. I don't know why people hated on it so much.
Oh my gosh. No, because it wasn't my favorite because I hated Chibiusa as a child. I had big time beef with Chibiusa as a child. No idea why. Always disliked her, but I've come around since rereading the manga as an adult.
Mhm. Because we were like, Michi, go read the manga. Chibiusa isn't as annoying in the manga as she is in the show.
Yeah, the dream arc was definitely better written than the anime, in my opinion. Like, it had better themes and more growth for the characters, power ups, and it included the outer senshi, who were not in supers at all, save for the special.
Yeah. And then right before we get to the Galaxia, Oda had a request. I saw this specific part Oda wanted to talk about. And it's from Sailor Mars Says again. But I'd be really interested to hear what you two have to think on this.
I don't want your sympathy, you goody two-shoes wretch! Save it for yourself! You deprive me of my most precious dream, so therefore, I will take great pleasure in destroying your most important treasure in all your world! Now maybe you can understand how I feel. I still pity you.
That line, I still pity you, Oda brought up, is different in Japanese. And the Japanese, Sailor Moon says, I'll never give up, then jumps.
Sure, if Sailor Moon says she'll never give up or she won't give in to the likes of Nehelenia. I don't remember I don't remember. It depends on the translation, but I think it was like, I'll never give in to the likes of you. I think that the Cloverwave, Linda Ballantyne's performance when she's doing the fall saving Rainy was very, like, probably her strongest performance because she dropped the Terry Hawkness of her voice. That's the best way to describe it. And I think it was probably the strongest episode out of the entire like Cloverwave Super season.
Oh.
I definitely like the translation and like you took what was most important to me, so I'm going to take what's important to you. I think that was very well written. And I think it just goes to show it's like localization is not bad. Localization is bad. And I think if you get the right writer, director, and the voice cast, you know, I don't think you can't lose in that respect.
Mm-hmm. No, completely agree. And As, what do you think of the clip?
I think I like it more as I pity you because I think it's her. She doesn't like the way Usagi's looking at her.
Oh, yeah.
Your
Because
eyes.
then, yeah, Queen of, at the end, it's like, how could she look at me like that or something?
Mhm. Because she does pity her. She's like, you allowed this to happen. I feel sorry for you that you fell into that own darkness of yourself, but I'm not going to do that. So,
To me, that episode is one of the things that makes her the most sympathetic of all the villains in a way.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because she is so downtrodden. Like,
Mm.
just the world is collapsing before her, and she does this last desperate act.
Because her
And
mirror is broken. That's
her dream.
That was hers. That was her dream of staying beautiful and looking at her beautiful self. And now it's broken.
So it's a real kind of, it can be almost like a philosophical, what do we become when we lose our dream?
Thank you for checking. Cause I was like, that's the one thing about like subs is Japanese, like, you may say makenai, but it's like, I think it's like how you interpret it is like different. Like, if I know it means not to give up, but I don't know, like in that particular context, what she meant in the Japanese version. I do remember the subtitle, like, I'll never give in to the likes of you, or I'll never give up to someone like you. I think that's where the makenai comes into play. But I think much like any language that you're translating, it depends on how you are interpreting the language.
And what context it's falling into, because sometimes it means a slight shift. It's just like English, where certain things, depending on how you used it or what it followed, it does mean something.
Mm.
It's got a slightly different context to it. It still means it, but
Right.
it's just a little tweaked on the side.
Yes. As far as like anime Nehelenia, I definitely love how she's more fleshed out and she's a richer character overall. I grew up on Deke. I had the bootleg Sailor Stars episode on tape.
Yes.
And I wore that tape down to the nuts and bolts of it because I watched those episodes. It was the closest thing I get to Sailor Stars at that point in time. So I thought it was very interesting. I think her anime counterpart is more significant in terms of character development, screen time. There's definitely some plot holes, like Princess Serenity sealing her away with the golden crystal, like that flash of her memory of Princess Serenity holding the golden crystal. I'm like, where'd you remember that from? When did this happen?
Mhm.
We need
and
timelines.
and Nehelenia getting to start her life over. Does the entire Dead Moon Circus kingdom, like she had a whole kingdom, did they get to start over too? What about them? I think that was like my thought process when I was thinking about this episode. It was like, while there is some better character development, it definitely leaves some questions, leaves a lot to be desired. I'm wondering what truly happened to Nehelenia. Did she go back to the dark side of the moon? And the thing was, also, is Nehelenia in the anime is not from the dark side of the moon. She's from an asteroid close to the moon.
Yeah.
Was that restored? Was the kingdom restored? Was there a whole asteroid of people living outside of Earth, like living their best life? Like, I need more. I need
We
answers.
need to feel it. Like,
Like,
Yeah,
and
we have to go back and we're like,
right.
okay, where are
Like,
these people? You just did this. You changed the timeline.
like most of the remnants get destroyed, and we realized that they were actually subjects of her kingdom. You just killed a whole bunch of innocent people, in a sense.
oh
Mhm.
man. And that, oh, that could, that's a whole different rabbit hole.
Like the implications.
Yeah, but, oh my
But
God.
she doesn't remember either. So she wakes up as a child again. She only
And it's
has
like,
the feelings that she needs to reach out to people.
and I'm wondering, like, if like Sailor Moon was like keeping that in mind. It also gives you an idea of the extent of Sailor Moon's power for her to not only restore her to her youth, but to put her in another timeline, on another planet. I know Nehelenia disappears and we see that image of her as a child, but is that Nehelenia in the afterlife?
Oh, could be. I didn't even think of that. That could have been like her happily ever after in the afterlife.
Like, they're all
It
staring up the sky. Like, she's in a better place now.
Right? Like, you
I
want to
think
elaborate?
the only thing I see is the way Usagi reacts to it, though. I don't
Mhm.
think she actually,
No.
because Usagi would have been crying a whole lot more.
Fair.
But to be fair, Nehelenia did put her through hell. She was just crawling through thorny vines not too long ago. She like,
It, it,
I'm gonna
she a
put you,
crybaby.
I'm gonna euthanize you in the gentlest way possible because I'm still hurting from these thorns.
She would have cried. She a big ass crybaby.
Like, ain't you killed my baby?
You tried killing my baby? Mm-mm. But
Uh,
no, she would have cried a lot more. It's the you think that for a second, but if you look at how
Mhm.
Usagi's acting,
Yeah,
she didn't. And I'm
right.
just like, and to feed off what you said, that's you just looking at you like, holy crap, Usagi, you need to calm down with those powers just a bit.
Right. And I think leading up to that moment, Usagi realized that even though she could have went toe to toe with Nehelenia, there had to be a different way to resolve the situation because it was a perpetual cycle of hate. And by her killing Nehelenia, it would have continued that cycle. So she went a different route. And I think that's also one of the reasons why she was able to fully power up as Eternal Sailor Moon, where she's like, now I know what to do with this power. Let me.
oh yeah, like it gave her the reason. Okay. And then a couple comments from Oda. Oda says the exact line, and that's oh man, you're giving me my Japanese test for the day.
Natani wa zetai makanai.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Literally meaning I won't lose to you, but again, context-based languages are super open-ended. So
Yeah.
that's kind of work.
I appreciate them looking into it. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's all translations. I appreciate you double checking for me because I was like, where is it?
Oda's great. Oda's amazing.
Also, Japanese sometimes is like one word means like this whole myriad of feelings, and you're like,
Right.
I'm gonna need you to give like a definition of the word, not a feeling of
Yeah.
this is how water reflects off the water, and this is how you feel about that light reflecting off that water. And I'm like,
I agree. I think it's also good to point out Oda said that it's very open-ended, which is 100% correct, which is why I'm very like, even the manga translations are open-ended. And I think as Americans, we tend to take word as law. And I need you to get out of that mindset when you're reading Japanese manga, because while it's translated into English, it does not mean that it is a direct translation of
Yeah.
Japanese. And it is open to interpretation, and your interpretation is fine. How you interpret it is fine. I'm not arguing that at all. But when you try to make it fact is where I have an issue, because it's like,
hmm
how you interpret it is up to you, but you cannot press that onto other people.
So, funny story about Japanese in general. So, I'm rereading Skip Beat. I don't know if you've read it.
I-
And one of the characters, he's one of the actors. His name is Ren, and he has a dictionary on his phone when he's reading scripts, because sometimes he may think a Japanese word means one thing and it means something else. And the other character, her name's Kyoko, they end up talking. She's actually in disguise, and she asks him, what is he looking for? And he says this certain word, and he thought it meant to be over anger or something. And she tells him that it's a dance or something like that from a certain part of where she's from in Kyoto. And so it's really interesting because even in Japan, they sometimes have to know the context of where a word comes from, because it could mean something completely different in Osaka
Mhm.
than it
Yeah.
does in Kyoto.
Yeah.
And it's
Dialects,
just a slight,
regions.
yeah,
Mhm.
the different regions. So just us talking about language, I thought that'd be a funny point out that even in Japan,
Yeah.
they sometimes, well, because that's why if you ever hear them go, "How do you spell your name?" So because they do Kyoko, so Kyo for her being from Kyoto and Ko meaning child. So they
Mhm.
actually will separate, like, what their things are. So I just think it's interesting because, again, coming over here, I was like, even in Japan, man, there's sometimes like, what context are we using that word in? Because I don't know what it means. This is what I think it means.
And I have to give props to Oda for giving me grace with this, because I get triggered when I engage in interactions like that, because some people are very rude about it. No, it means this. It means exactly this. And I'm like, does it though? And I have had to like make a disclaimer, like, I'm not in the business of arguing with people about fandom, but
Mhm.
I am responsible for information, especially when it comes to fandom. So if I get new fans in this space and they're asking a question, I'm giving them like the bare bones of the situation or the story or what have you. I definitely encourage people to read the manga and watch the show for themselves, because how you interpret it and how you perceive it is your own experience. I can't dictate that for you. And I think that some people that are like diehard stans tend to forget that.
We just want to have fun here. We try to make this a space for all Moonies to come together
I
and have
agree.
good
I do the
discussion.
same. I try to do the same thing. Whereas I'm not an elitist. I don't think one dub is superior than the other. We like all the versions. We like
Yes.
all the Seiya Usa fans. We love you too. I'm not gonna sit
Yes.
there and be like, I'm not gonna sit there. Oh, you got the bait of my existence. I'm not. I'm not in the business of doing that. You have your ships. You have your interpretations and perceptions, and that's perfectly fine. It's when you start being disrespectful with is when I have a problem.
Mhm.
Understandable. And
That's
then,
why we've done this show. And like a lot of people have said, they're like, I'm so happy I could just, and you guys like feed into it. I'm like, hell yeah, just give me more.
yeah,
Tell
like
me
we
your
want to hear
opinions.
what you have to say and what your
Right.
unique perspective of Sailor Moon is.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons like why I like self-proclaim myself as the big brother of Sailor Moon, because I think I've got a lot of comments where people are like, don't hate me because I feel this way about Seiya Usagi, and I'm like, no one's going to hate you for this. This is a safe space for you
Mhm.
to say how you feel. And I think they also appreciate the fact that I will protect them. Like, I will protect you. If you're being respectful with your opinion and your perspective, I will go to bat for you all day long. But when you start to get toxic and start shitting on other people, excuse my language,
You're
that's when I'm like, I will delete you. I will block you. I will mute you because the world is crazy enough as it is. Our fandoms are safe spaces for us to get away from the world. And it's like when you bring the world into your fandom, it ruins the experience and disconnects you from the fandom as a whole.
Couldn't agree more.
The only time I say something is enemies, I hate Nehelenia, I'd be like, we can't be friends. You gotta go. I'm so sorry. I like Sailor Moon. I'm like,
I'm glad Ura is giving you 10 out of 10.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Do we want, okay, question for you two. There's a
Mhm.
scene in the 90s anime Cloverway specific I want to talk about. Do you want to
Okay.
save that for the end or do you want to talk about it now while we're in anime?
let's talk it while we're in anime.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's broken down into 2 parts because I couldn't find it in one. Then is some of my favorite voice acting by Jupiter.
Susan Roman.
Yes. Thank you, Grayson. Yes, Susan Roman. This is some of her best work. Yeah, no, oh no, you're gonna love this.
Sailor Jupiter, who's here? Here I am. Huh? It's you. Don't be frightened, girl. I'm really just you. You're me? That's right. I am yourself. Why should I be wearing that ridiculous outfit? I'd rather be a regular girl, not a sailor scout. I really like flowers and fashion and cooking and dancing. I don't want to fight anymore, but the others wouldn't understand. To look pretty and be feminine is what I like. Look, huh? Isn't this beautiful? Now this is the real me. Don't you think we should stop? Stop what? Stop the fighting, of course. Come with me, Lita. Let's enjoy wonderful.
Okay, so that's part 1 that I wanted to
And
talk
the
about.
fact that I heard Lita, I would just want like this. I went,
Right? Like, you're like, what? What year is it?
Lita.
But this is the scene when they first go into the circus and they're
Right.
going up against Queen Nehelenia. And I think it's
Mhm.
some of these wrong Deke acting or Cloverway, sorry.
Deacon Cloverway. Susan Roman is amazing. She's an amazing voice actress. She is like the definitive voice of an English Jupiter, in my opinion. She reminds me of Lenore Zan, who plays Rogue in X-Men. Her voice is just very distinct and unique.
Mhm.
And I think she was like one of the definitive voices for the 90s. Susan Roman. Like, I wish she would have came back as Jupiter because as much as I love like the Viz dub cast, they're a faithful adaptation of the Sailor Moon anime. I really wish they would have brought back like Susan Roman from the OG cast because I think she would have definitely killed it as Makoto.
Oh, 100%. She's like, when I think of Jupiter, I hear her in my head. Rent
Yes.
free. Or a real quick saying, I feel like the reason there's so much more personality to this stuff is because it feels like these ladies had more freedom with interpreting their character.
They did. They absolutely did.
No, for sure. And then I still think of Amara and Michelle when I think of the English Uranus and Neptune. I know, I do too.
And to circle back to Azira's comments about inflection, the voice actresses for Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are the same ones from the Pioneer dub movies.
Oh.
And if you've seen Hearts and Ice, you will.
Yeah.
Uranus had that high pitched voice. I think Sarah LaFleur played her, and she lowered her tone for the TV show. So I think it's very interesting, like when you have the right direction, because people are like, what's going on with Uranus's voice in this movie? And they're like, hey, Sarah, could you like tone it down for the show?
I love that
And
though.
like, pull yourself back.
Yes.
You're like, Uranus is neither male nor female, so
Right.
put that down.
And as much as I love Barbara Radecki, who plays Serena's mom, she also plays Neptune. Just wish she would have done something a little bit different with her voice to get away from the mom voice that she uses for Neptune.
Yeah. No,
Like,
now you're blowing my
Yeah.
mind that she was also Usagi's mom.
yes.
You're blowing my
Uh,
mind. I have a new
love
cosplay in my
them.
head.
Yes. Love them so much. But it's just like, Barbara, please.
Is the cosplay going to be Neptune dressed in Usagi's mom's clothing?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm totally gonna do it. I love obscure.
Please take pictures. I need to see
And if
it.
people ask you what you are, you're like, I'm the voice actress.
Yes,
Oh my god, what if I meet the voice actress just like
that would be
You should just find
hilarious.
it. Honestly, the only voice acting that have ever been upset about is not having British Luna.
I'm still upset.
I will be forever upset that we do not have British Luna.
I just didn't like her in the Ice and Ice movie
Okay. With
because
fair. It's
she sounded like Angela Lansbury, but you look like you're young and beautiful and stuff like that. And you're like, "Hi, Francesca Guglia," and I'm like,
But are you?
so what power are we using?
like they
And
could have used a different voice actress and totally. Oh, she sounds different because she looks different. That could have worked.
She's human.
Yes.
you could have. It would have worked. And it would
Yeah.
have made a lot more sense. No offense to Jill. Jill is a legend.
Yes. Love her. Jill Frappier. Yes.
And then
Oh, Oda. Yes. The crying, not the crying.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the Heart
It was-
and Ice movie, the noise that she makes when Luna is crying, you should have bumped up the rating. Oh my god. And then running, not crying. And then I didn't know this. The most amazing part is that Sarah LaFleur and Barbara
Radecki.
recorded their lines together, which in dubbing is unheard of.
That's really cool to know.
You know that?
Cool. I didn't know that either.
All right. Do we have enough time? I think we have just enough time for the other clip. So let's finish it. And this is both from Sailor Mars Says. The other one was Sailor Compares to Yourself. And this one is Paula Mears Sailor for S.
I think the Sailor Scout business is getting in your way. Didn't you always want to be a successful doctor? Have you forgotten what you dreamed of, Amy? Oh, what I dreamed of?
You've always fought to save the world from danger, but if anyone ever thanked you, maybe you should just let them be. Then you could do what you've always wanted and follow your beautiful dreams of fame.
I know it's frightening. Scouts can't possibly win every single battle, can they? They might even lose this one. I want to run away, right? Want to run away.
Bet you're freaked now, aren't ya? I'm you, you know. You're me? That's right. I know all there is to know.
Now let's
dream wonderful dreams together, Serena. Wonderful dream? Yeah. Why don't you just forget everything and enjoy yourself now?
Serena!
Huh? Don't you feel it? What? If you're me, you should be able to feel this pain in my chest.
Serena, you must try to put me out of your mind and focus on saving the world.
I won't forget. Everything means so much to me. I enjoy my life the way it is. I take the bad with the good. I have no regrets. I am Serena, and I am Sailor Moon. And you are not me. Never. Not even in your dreams.
But that clip lives rent free in my head. I love that scene more than anything in Supers.
Yeah, it was very emotional.
I just think it's one of those really good ones where it shows not only the strength of all of the voice actors, like all five, even Zirconia, Zirconia
Yes.
popped off,
Mm-hmm.
but it shows the heart of the show, especially Sailor Moon. That was like one of my top favorite Serena moments where she's, you will not be me even in your dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. Those last few episodes of Supers was probably the strongest out of the entire Cloveroy run. Linda Valentine at the end, at the last episode when she's we'll dream together. That hands down is my favorite scene from the dub. It was just like I said, she dropped the Serena-ism out of her voice, the Terry Hawkmiss imitation she was doing, and she just used this strong, endearing, powerful voice. I'm like, where has this voice been this entire time?
You're like, now I've been cheated.
Like, you had that this entire time. You could have just used that.
Naz, what do you think?
Of what we just watched?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's one of my favorite things where she realizes, she's like, wait a minute, that's not right. So you see her snap out of it, but you see the scouts snap out of it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows, as always, like the strength that Usagi has.
Right.
And it's interesting because of the character, because she is a crybaby. She's not as much of a crybaby as the series goes on, but she's very much like a selfish teenage girl a lot of the time.
Mhm.
So it's nice when they put in moments like this because you see how strong she is and how she is going to be in the future for Neo Queen Serenity. Like you see the royalty within her where she like matures and you're like, there she is.
Right.
There she is for a moment.
And there's this interconnectedness between this group that kind of resonates in that scene where it's like Sailor Moon's
Mhm.
coming out of it. And it's like in that same moment, they're also realizing something's not right.
Mhm.
So I think like just showing like the synergy between the group and Sailor Moon and how they are like intrinsically connected to one another.
Another thing is it's always funny when they have scenes like this because there's other seasons where the scouts get questioned like this, where they're made, "Oh, you wanna be with Jupiter, she doesn't wanna fight, she wants to be a pretty girl," or
Mhm.
Amy wants to be a doctor, or Ray wants to 'cause she technically wants to be a pop star, even though that's not
She wants to be the
she's
prince
all over the
of
place just a little bit, and then
International Success Live.
yeah, and then for I'm just gonna use the English names for Mina, it's
Yes.
she wants to be a pop star, that's what she wants to be. But then you have these flashes, and it's usually Usagi with the girls. And the girls, while they wanna be that, they don't regret being Sailor Scouts, and I think it's funny that the villains, when they do things like this, they try to make the scouts regret that they're being scouts
Right.
when they don't anymore. It's not the one that always tore at my heart was after the first season when Luna has to wake Sailor Moon back up and Usagi's, "I just wanna be a normal teenage girl, I don't wanna do this."
Right.
But then you get to this part in the series, and the girls don't regret being scouts. They don't regret what they're doing
Right.
because even though they're doing it, they're still gonna get their dreams. They're
Right.
still working at it. They're not allowing the scout to stop them
Right.
from doing it.
And I
So,
think against Luna's and Usagi's better judgment, like even Luna realized that even though they didn't have their powers at the time, they still wanted to help and wanted to be there for Sailor Moon. So I think that even though they were living a normal life, they were still connected in such a sense where they felt the need to protect her. And that's why Luna woke them back up. So while we want them to live normal lives, it's ingrained in them. It's an innate feeling that they have to protect their
mhm.
pet. I think that was very powerful as well.
Fortunately, Chaos is not dead, so the girls can't live normal lives because Chaos just keeps coming after them because it's coming after the silver crystal.
I definitely wish that Naoko had like a Marvel Comics type of thing. What if? What if they never woke back up? Or what if Ami went to Germany and there was no Sailor Mercury? I would definitely like to see some scenarios like that play out. What if Princess Serenity never woke up and Sailor V was still the decoy?
There's so many what ifs that we could go down. I love those. They're my
That's
favorite.
why we have fan fiction.
Yes.
So many good fan fiction.
Because Naoko really hasn't done anything. She's
Yeah. And
given us images,
I
but
wanted to tack on to your Crystal Eternal comment. I think because I think we have heard in the World Wide Web, especially when it comes to Sailor Moon. Like Sailor Moon is notorious for misinformation, but there have been some insights into Naoko's unreceptiveness to some of the choices that the anime made, such as the R movie or the Doomtree arc, or the Starlights being men that transform into women. I think that's one of the reasons like why Crystal, with a few exceptions, did not deviate from the source.
Mhm.
I my personal opinion was the fact is that I think Naoko was like, I agree to a revival, but it needs to stick to my story. And I think we see this all the time in media where we have authors that are not 100% happy with the adaptation of their work, especially when it's not faithful to the source material or the parameters that they create their universe in. I think that's one of the reasons why Crystal, while I love Crystal because it's faithful to the manga, but also I felt like there were some missed opportunities, especially for the characters. Like we didn't get Sailor V, a prequel for Sailor V. We didn't get any of the side stories adapted, which would have been great for a series. The production values were better in Eternal and Cosmos. I wish it either would have went back or like redid the seasons as movies so you have a more comprehensive collection. But I think that Cosmos also caused a little bit more confusion, just like the manga did when it comes to Cosmos's origins and stuff like that, because of some of the liberties that were taken with that particular movie. And I wish there was a better way to merge the two to create a more comprehensive product and answer these questions that we have about this story. Oda said that that it's a hyperfixation and I've never gotten away from Sailor Moon. It's because we're always learning something new or we haven't found the answer to a question about the story in general. And I think that if we were able to get a more comprehensive story, yes, readapt the manga, but expand on everything that you created, connect those missing pieces. No one's saying you have to. We would definitely want you to be faithful to source material, but you're the author. You have the ability to answer questions and create opportunities that you necessarily couldn't do in your book. So I think that that's always interesting. And I'm like wondering what the future holds for Sailor Moon fans.
What you're saying, they could have literally gone up to Naoko and be like, hey, we need this plot hole filled. What were you talking about in this? Can you just write it down? You don't have to draw it. Just write out what the hell it's
Exactly.
supposed to be. And you could have expanded right there. You could have
Yeah.
expanded on these storylines and just asked Naoko, be like, hey, did you want to go somewhere with this? Make sure her editor's there because her editor
Right.
kept her in line, some of her ideas, but they expanded on a lot of stuff and been like, Naoko approved this. And the Sailor
Right.
Moon community would have been like,
Yeah.
Mom approved it. We're good.
Yeah, I think it's less about, I don't think we are in an age, especially with mainstream media, to do filler anymore. I think that's one of the reasons why, like with the exception of One Piece and Naruto or whatever, I just don't think that people have the capacity to watch 200 seasons of a show, 200 episodes of a show anymore. And not necessarily filler, but definitely some character enrichment and development. PGSM was only one season and it developed the hell out of those characters. You could have done the same. You could have done the same thing with the revival anime. That's like my opinion.
And and you have to look at the animes they're bringing out now. They're very faithful to the manga because that's all people want. We just want to see the mangas animated. That's it. And you're seeing it with a lot of stuff. Like a lot of the ones like that I watch, they're very faithful to like Apothecary Diaries.
Oh, I love that anime.
They don't deviate. They're following the manga. They may add little tidbits because maybe it wasn't in the manga directly, but it was like alluded, so they'll put it into the anime. But they're staying faithful, and I feel that I wish Sailor Moon had done that with this. With when what was it, the 20th anniversary they announced Crystal.
Yeah,
I wish from that point when they were doing it, people were like, just follow the freaking manga, and they didn't. And I think that.
Yeah.
I think that kind of has always pissed me off with a little bit with Sailor Moon. I'm
agree.
like, we just followed it's right there. You have the source material. It's open book.
Right. And I don't know if it's like Michi was saying, if it's a creative team, producer, director type thing where they were just like, yeah, just follow the books. Like, we don't need to talk to Naoko. She just wants it faithful. Like, rather than, I think and I'll make this last point because I know I've got to go on break. But have you guys watched X-Men 97?
I'm trying to remember. I watched X-Men as a child, but I can't remember which version.
So X-Men 97 is a revival of the original 90s cartoon.
Okay.
And the showrunner at the time, who was no longer the showrunner, Bo DeMayo, is a X-Men fan. And it shows in the show where it's like characters that show up, storylines that are being written and stuff like that. And I don't think there was a Sailor Moon fan in the room when this series was being made. It was like, oh, the higher ups want this series done. Let's just put it in production without any true fandom being put into the series.
It's just like with like them making products for Sailor Moon. A Sailor Moon fan is not in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
see
"Can you
one
just
more
hire
could
me?
stand.
Make you a lot of money."
Welcome back for the second half of Queen Nehelenia, A Look Inside the Mirror on Eternal Mooncast, Season 3, Episode 6. We are here with the Sailor Moon guy, also known as Grace and as, what am I forgetting? Don't do that to me.
You wanted to talk about lettuce or whatever it
Yes.
was.
Okay, so this is like a quick Moony update. So, about a year ago, a group called SG5 came out, and they came out with the song Fire Truck, and then they disappeared. And I'm still trying to get info from my friends in Japan on why they disappeared. But they had a comeback, but they're no longer SG5. They're just known as F, the number 5, BE. But I've been told that there's Sailor Moon elements if we look hard enough. They have given no explanation for their comeback. They have given no explanation as to why they left. So I figured it would be something fun to watch.
I'm just mad that they like stopped being the SG5.
Some
Like
of
that
their
was almost
pictures,
them.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing
I
up
mean, the
this
fact
video
that they
you want
weren't
you
tied
sent.
to the anime didn't help it either. They didn't do any theme songs for the anime or anything like that. It was a completely missed opportunity here.
So much. I'm a K-pop stan. Do you know the amount of money I would have spent on them? I am that photo card person.
Yeah, because all they had was like their announcement. They did like
Mhm.
their little poses and how much they loved Sailor Moon. They had picked their colors of what scout they were.
And it
And
was
then they did
really
their
good.
single, and the single was really good.
Yeah.
And it just didn't capitalize well. Sailor Tortilla actually did an article about what was considered mainstream for like Sailor Moon, and I think it was just like a way for Sailor Moon to capitalize on the J-pop, K-pop wave that has hit America. And I think they just didn't really capitalize on it the way they could have.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm interested to see about lettuce because you know what? They're promoting it. They look great. Like, this is my blind reaction to it. All right, Ask you bring it up? Yep. All right.
We're supposed to squint for Sailor Moon references. Is that what the thing
Yeah,
is?
we're looking for Sailor Moon references.
ただいまお聞きいただいているのは SJ5FM You eat a lot of lettuce but you're toxic Yeah, I know you're only getting started You texting me but then you're going ghost yeah. Why you always gonna do the most yeah. I can see your friends, they don't like me And I don't understand, do you got a plan? Why you acting up because you like me Baby, what you say, is it me or them? Fucking maybe I don't like the clue Fake on a you That is not my way, but I like you So call me on a late night shift Keep the suit of patience I don't wanna chase it Yeah, cutie, so I take it Nothing I eat it Just say when I meet you at your place You eat a lot of lettuce, but you're toxic Yeah, I know you're only getting started You're texting me, but then you're going ghost, yeah. Why you always gotta do the most, yeah. I can see your friends, they don't like me And I don't understand, do you got a plan? Why you acting up because you like me Baby, what you say, is it me or them? Fucking maybe 今どこ行くの Take me dancing, 何のway fancy 後でね I can meet you there Just say when, boy, I'll meet you anywhere 何をしたいですか I get what I wanna, then I want another one Kira, baby, say what's up I'll take you off the map, my high class You eat a lot of lettuce, but you're toxic Yeah, I know you're only getting started You're texting me, but then you're going ghost, yeah. Why you always gotta do the most, yeah. I can see your friends, they don't like me And I don't understand, do you got a plan? Why you acting up because you like me Baby, what you say, is it me or them? Fucking maybe Like me
Was there anything at the end? Okay, so I saw Jupiter references. That's
You
about
did?
it. When she did the attack with the lettuce, it was Jupiter Thunder Smash. It was the girl who was assigned to Jupiter Kaede.
The other thing I saw was the water
Yeah.
was Mercury. But I mean, they're cute,
It's
but
catchy
I
song.
like their other look when they were the scouts.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the rebranding because this could have easily been kept under the SG5 brand. So I'm just wondering like why the change?
Same.
Because it's
I
not like
would
they
be
were boxed in.
So this is the description they have for 5 because it's called 5.
Mm.
Are interdimensional dream agents from Tokyo, Japan. Their mission is to infiltrate the subconscious mind in order to eradicate self doubt and negative energy. Utilizing their arsenal of optimism, confidence, fantasy, intelligence, and female empowerment, these 5 women create surreal landscapes in which fear can't exist. 5 are women of every girl's dream.
cute. I like it. I don't know. I'm very interested. We'll follow up when we get more information, but I at least wanted to make the Sailor Moon, like,
Because
our
they,
fans aware.
they still have Fire
Yeah.
Truck up
Yeah.
under
Okay.
under the
Under
Fives
SG5.
YouTube.
Okay. Okay. I know Sailor Tortilla wasn't necessarily as receptive. And for me, I was like, this is finally a mainstream experience for Sailor Moon fans and J-pop, K-pop fans. And it was like, I guess for me, it defeated the whole point of my rebuttal when you shop and then you're like, where's something else now? I'm hoping they will be like more successful with this rebrand. I guess for me, it's like the whole Sailor Moon aspect of it was like why I was invested. Now I'm not as much. So I'm like interested to see like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked because all they have is Fire Truck before that. That's it. I was like,
Mhm.
you guys didn't even try. That was a year ago.
Yeah.
A year ago, and it has 6.2 million views.
That's good.
The Lettuce song has 675K in 2 weeks. Because I'm guaranteeing people were curious. They were like, what the heck's going on?
Because I was following them on TikTok and when I was checking my Sailor Moon guy page, they popped up on my For You page. And I was like, oh, there's that new grow group. I didn't even make the association until Michi DM'd me. And she's like, we're going to talk about lettuce. I'm like, why are we talking? She's like, it's SG5. I was like, oh, that makes sense now. I understand why I'm following this new group because they totally took down the SG5 stuff.
Everything,
Yeah, everything's gone except for the single.
which is just wild to me. I'm like, there has to be a reason. There's got to be info we don't.
And and I don't know, it's tight. The industry, like in Asia, is very tight lipped. So I don't know if we're actually going to truly get inside information as to why they're very business focused. And when they make decisions, they tend to make them in either you roll with it or you don't.
Yeah.
I think we would get more answers if we were like Army, like BTS,
Yes.
like strong fan base is able to like disseminate.
They had released more than one song. They probably would have gotten an army behind them.
I
Well,
agree.
But it also could be we may not know that maybe they weren't allowed to be SG5.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's an IP thing. Like maybe they revoke their license. That's the best way
Mhm.
to explain it.
Maybe they got that single out and all of a sudden, you never know. It could have been Naoko, it could have been Toei, it could have been
Yeah.
something completely different. So maybe someone already had that name. But I'm like, at
Or
least release that. Let us know.
or maybe it just didn't align with the Sailor Moon branding, whereas like Fire Truck definitely had no ties other than the color schemes. There wasn't anything that truly tied. And I think that was like Sailor Tortilla's thing too, where it's like, how is this Sailor Moon? Like, how is this tied to Sailor Moon? And my thing is, I think, and Lettuce rings true for this point, whereas visually, you could have capitalized on the anime magical girl community by having those visual aspects in your music videos and your singles. So I'm not sure, but it's like, it didn't necessarily work for Momoclo either. So I'm wondering if that's what it is too, because I think
Oh, that's right.
because
They
other
didn't
than
expand
SG5, but my thing is like Momoclo is probably the closest you would get to a Sailor Moon girl group, and they totally tied into that brand. I just and but again, they didn't really pursue it either. So I'm like wondering if it's like a marketing business thing where they're like, yeah, it was cute, but it's not selling.
I would love for something like that, like a magical girl. Sure, you can theme yourself after Sailor Moon, but sing about all the magical girls. Pull all
Right.
the magical girl themes in. There's so much to be made there. Right now,
Right.
I'm gonna about to after I finish Skip Beat, I'm trying to get to Tokyo. I'm going back. I'm just
I just
like,
watched Saint Tail. It was really
oh
good.
my goodness. I don't have the manga for that.
I don't either, but I did watch the show and it was really good. I'm trying to finish Cutie Honey Flash.
I've also got oh, and Mermaid Melody we got. I'm also
So
trying to
good.
get I know it's not magical completely magical girl, but I'm trying to get like Angelic Layer.
Okay.
Ooh.
Love Angelic. But there's so much to play on, and I just feel that
Mhm.
we do stuff like this, and we do our show of these classic magical girl and stuff like that, and then there's the market for it, and
Right.
it's not just children, and
Right.
I think Japan just really drops the ball with that. I'm just like, who that who's at your concerts and your musicals and all this stuff? Those are adults. You don't have children at
Yeah.
these things, and I
Just
think it's just a very big
this
kind of
economy
slap
is
to the
truly
face
built
where
for
you have
us.
in the States,
Mhm.
they're trying to the nostalgia, they're playing it to adults now because we can pay for this stuff.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
the best way, like,
Yeah.
old Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and all
Mhm.
that stuff, but our anime stuff here is geared towards adults, not always
Right.
children.
Right.
Because a lot of our clothing is not in children's sizes, it's in adult sizes.
Mhm.
Right.
So I
And
think
I'm
that's where this is also, like, where this 5 went. I'm just like, "You guys, you're not doing your research, you're just trying to pump out the newest cute women dancing on stage and singing about lettuce."
I think it's interesting because the products in the economy right now are geared towards our generation because we
Yeah.
have the income to do it. But at the same time, they're not listening to us either
Yeah.
because while we're getting like Sailor Moon podcasts and stuff like that, people are still, oh my gosh, why aren't you making this? Because we want this. Yes, Crystal Eternal and Cosmos were a thing, but we were sold on the 90s stuff. Give us the 90s stuff. And then
That's
Give
what
us
we
more
wanted.
villain stuff.
yeah,
Everybody's give us villain stuff.
like we're getting so many like remakes of these SH figure arts action figures, which is like my favorite. And I'm like, do you know how many times I would buy that same Sailor Moon Blue action figure just for you to change her brooch and her weapon? That's all you have to do, and you will still get $60 out of me.
I love it.
It's like
Give
stop
me a Sailor
repackaging the
Moon
same one.
Nendo, because we don't have Nendos, we have those FH figure minis,
Yes.
Mhm.
which, by the way, are a pain in the butt. I've actually, like, bruised my finger trying to snap one of those things in. But also give us villains.
Yes.
Like, when they started doing, because I have the 2 shelves right here are all villains.
Hmm.
When they released the villain stuff, it's sold out. Like, the
Yes.
person who I go through the proxy for, he was like, "It's sold out."
Yeah. And they're trying to get the most bang for their buck. And I was like, I was saying earlier, if I see one more acrylic stand, I'm going to spring.
I don't blame you.
The
Yeah.
Petite Chara line, what Udo's saying, the Petite Chara line, they
Yeah.
stopped making those.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they were so
Nehelenia
popular.
never got one. The Amazon Trio did, but the Amazon Quartet and Nehelenia did not get one, and neither did
Mm-mm.
Galaxia.
Mm-mm.
Not fair, but that's a good segue back into our topic of the night. Queen
Yes.
Nehelenia and Galaxia. What an
Mhm.
interesting pairing there of I put the word pawn, but I don't know if I would totally say pawn.
She was a pawn.
She was a
So
pawn. She was
She was a
manipulated into
chess
being a
piece
pawn.
being moved by Galaxia. She's
Yes.
a chess piece on the board.
yeah.
She was hoping that maybe Nehelenia's hate would have helped get rid of some of the
And she awakened to Helena for a reason. She needed Saturn to awaken. She needed the outer senshi at their full potential. So there's a reasoning and I wish they would have kept like that aspect with Galaxia because her motive is very clear in the manga. I need Sailor Moon Starseed to be open right now in order for me to take it. The only way I can do that is by killing all her friends and her lover and, well, I get what I want. And I think the anime was headed in that direction and they like just dropped it all together because at that point, Galaxia was just being a bitch. Like she was just like, oh, like this is fun for me.
Yeah.
Like,
The only reason for that is because the manga and the series were coming out at the same time. So
right,
they were having to guess in the anime with
right,
some of the direction because they didn't know what was happening
right.
with the manga because the manga literally finished 2 weeks before the anime did.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of like where you
Yeah.
see that disconnect, and
It's
maybe
like
that's why
they
we
got
saw
it
it with
right
Nehelenia.
there. They were like, yeah, I woke up Nehelenia to wake you guys up. And it was just like, okay, you're onto something there. And then you just dropped it. You're like, oh, yeah, that's what I was going to do, but I'm going to do something else now.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Kidding.
I like ADHD. What was I doing here again?
Here's Queen Nehelenia? What?
Oh, she died?
And I was like thinking about it. And I was like, she truly should have left Nehelenia alone. Like, I seriously, please, just she
No,
could have just
no.
left her alone at this rate. That's what my thought was. It was like, that's what happened if you just left her alone. And it was just such, I said that I know that production wise, it was a great way to segue Sailor Moon into Sailor Stars. I said, but the hell you got a raw deal out of the entire situation. I was like, and luckily she was saved in the end, but it's like at the same time, it's like you woke up and chose violence for what?
She was sleeping. That girl was power
Right.
napping, and she was going to power
Right.
nap for the rest of the millennials.
Right.
She was comfy.
She was manipulated.
My wife
she
goes,
was
listen, if I was awakened from a good ass nap, I also would be busy.
it was like she was manipulated, she was exploited.
Yeah.
And Saturn pointed that out to Galaxia. You did not do anybody any favors. You did this on purpose. And it's sometimes I hate being an adult watching Sailor Moon because that's really toxic behavior right there. You could have just left me where I was at.
I was sleeping.
Right. I was minding my own business.
I had left that business behind. My past was behind me, and you decided to remind me because that's what she does. Galaxia is, hey, you thought they were dead. They're actually laughing in your face.
It's that friend that brings up your ex, and you're like, what are you doing? Why are you bringing this up now? Like, how is this information serving me? And it's not serving you whatsoever.
No, not at all. In our comment section is totally to both.
You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of that meme where the person is sleeping and their brain is like talking. Have you seen that? Where it's
What
like,
if?
they're like, hey, what are you asleep right now? Like, yes, leave me alone. It's, oh, I think you left the oven on. And you're like, wide awake. Did I leave the oven on? That's basically what Galaxia did to hey, are you asleep? Hey, mother and kid you tried to kill, they're still alive, right? What?
And they're mocking you. They're mocking you because that's what she said. They're laughing and happy.
Yes, look.
They're mocking you.
And that's why she was so mad.
I would be too. Like I woke up
And they're alive.
they're
What?
happy.
Right.
And Odo, you're not wrong. You want to talk toxic behavior. The breakup scene in R is toxic, but we can't get derailed tonight. We would be here for a whole different.
It's not.
Yeah, like we can't even can't go down that road. Not tonight. Oh my god. But and this is interesting. Oda says when the super season didn't hit rating goals, the anime lost a lot of sponsored funding. Stars retreads a lot of S plot lines to try and bring viewership back up. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on Queen Nehelenia and Galaxia that you two want to talk about?
That was everything because they didn't really
That was
interact
everything.
too much. They just
She was a means to an end, and that was pretty much it. It was luckily she got like a very endearing end to her story arc. That was like probably the only benefit of Galaxia waking the Helenia up was that she got a proper ending. But yeah, it was just like
and that's
Galaxia.
one of the reasons I love Nehelenia so much is that ending right there.
Yeah.
Because you were like, she was you're like, it's not her fault. She was tricked.
Actually, that would be fun. Loki saying Loki, I wish Nehelenia got to see Galaxia eat it. Redemption. Let's go. The next topic we wanted to talk about was Queen Nehelenia versus Queen Beryl.
So I know that we were talking about similarities and differences, and There's really not a lot of similarities between Nehelenia and Beryl, in my opinion. Their motives are different. Other than them being queens, there's really not much relation between the two. But if I was going to compare similarities, I would compare Queen Nehelenia to Queen Beryl from the Eternal Legend Sailor Moon musical, because in the Eternal Legend musical, Galaxia wakes up Queen Beryl the same way she does Nehelenia in the anime.
Okay.
So I thought that was a good parallel between the two. Beryl gets manipulated by Galaxia much like Nehelenia did. And I would also say that where they are similar, I think PGSM Queen Beryl is like a combination between Queen Beryl and Nehelenia.
Ooh, that's an intriguing thought. I like that.
I think Aya Sugimoto, who played PGSM Beryl, definitely gave. She's actually my favorite portrayal of the Beryl character, and I think it's because she reminds me of Nehelenia. She has this deep, regal voice, and she just exudes like this beauty about herself that just resonates with me. And she presents a humanity to Queen Beryl that you don't see in the manga or the anime. I know that the manga like touches on her feelings for Endymion and why she did what she did to Millennium, but it's like, but PGSM Beryl had the best character development. Like you truly felt for her at the end of the series. Like you wanted her to win too. It was like, damn, like,
No,
I think
100%.
the only other is
mhm,
both Beryl and Nehelenia have huge followings
yeah.
because you have all those people who like stand in front of Beryl as she's like with her little ball, and then you have the huge Dead Moon Circus. So that's the
Mhm, right.
only like visual similarity I see between them is they have
Mhm,
these huge followings and people where if you look
right.
at any of the other villains, they don't have that. They
Oh,
don't have all these
True.
minions.
Or their minions are at each other's throat. Like they were dedicated to their queens.
they
Mhm.
were. And then real quick in the comments, I agree with or PGSM Beryl is peak. PGSM is peak overall.
Mhm,
Definitely. And then Loki coming in saying, in my opinion, their situation is similar, ignored by the ones they admire and love, which leads to evil taking root in loneliness.
and that's interesting because I never, because I think that's what I think there's a difference between Beryl and Nehelenia, where Beryl's motives are pretty clear. Like if Endymion, it's unrequited love, woman scorned, I'm going to raise the earth, or in this particular case, the moon. Whereas Nehelenia is more self serving. Like it's about her and her needs and her purposes. There's not necessarily a man at stake. There was that kind of hint that she wanted Endymion at the end of the manga, which I thought was a kind of odd throwaway in the manga.
Yeah.
She's, oh, the prince. And I'm like, you weren't even thinking about him.
Since what?
And the same thing in the anime where they did this throwaway with Helios, where she wanted Helios and the golden crystal and he rejected her. I think that's not a part of Nehelenia as a whole. Like she was about, and I think that even her beauty, like even I think her beauty was the standard or the expectation of her beauty was pushed on her by her subjects in a
Mm,
sense, where it's my subjects expect me to be this way, therefore I have this expectation of me. And that insecurity manifests itself at a time where she's alone with these feelings and the mirror picks up on that. I think that's also one of the missing point from the anime, and Azira pointed out, like, hey, this was being developed the same time as the manga. So it's like the mirror woke up one day and was like, hey, girl, you ugly. You know that, and the manga does not like prey on the manga does not prey on any type of insecurity that Helena has. She's very confident in who she is and what she's about. She knows she's a aspect of chaos. She knows that she is darkness looking for light. But I wish the anime had that intrinsic connectivity to explain it. Girl, your mirror is talking to you. Throw the mirror away. Like you're like, you know what, mirror? You right. You right.
Sure, my mirror started being like, your lashes aren't full enough. I'd be like, first
All
one,
right.
me.
Let me show you what you're gonna look like in the next
I
like
was about to
80
say we're gonna
years. Stuff like
sage
that.
all of this shit, and then we're gonna throw the mirror out.
So, and for me, it's like, I guess it's like one of those, I think it's a great, like in lieu of no chaos aspects like that, I think it's a great way to show how your insecurities can manifest in you as a person. Whereas like the expectation and standard is pushed on you. And while you understand it, when you don't meet that expectation, you feel lonely, you feel neglected, you feel like a failure. And I think that those feelings is what she saw and felt from the mirror itself. So in a sense, I think it goes back to that kind of like split personality thing, where it's like those feelings and excess kind of manifested themselves into this being. Like I think it was like speak and you shall manifest and stuff like that. I think she manifested zirconia from those feelings, and it was just like, I know the deepest, darkest parts of you, and I am exploiting those for these purposes.
The darkest parts in our own soul. And
Exactly. Like those little voices that we hear. And like when defenses are like when you've had a hard day at work, you're stressed out, you're laying down, defenses are down, and you are beating yourself up. That is basically your zirconia as like trying to get the best of
I agree with you there.
I feel like Zirconia was that mirror was like a parasite that got into the palace because
Mm,
they show like for her palace, it's bright,
mm,
it's very lively, she's very beautiful, and her court's very loving.
mhm,
And then you have this mirror come in, and like Zirconia's in that mirror. And like I said, I feel like Zirconia, whatever's in that mirror, was like maybe another planet, another dimension.
mm.
And it was trying to infect because it was trying to spread that infection of itself. And it did,
Right.
it won because it got a hold of Nehelenia because it realized, oh, this one, that's the leader. Let me play on her insecurities.
And I think Sailor Moon touched on that when she was talking to Galaxia at the end of the show, where she was like, chaos went back into everyone's hearts. And I think that's what happens when you feed into the negativity, especially when you're putting it on yourself. You are feeding the darkness or chaos in yourself. And it is basically manifesting in that way, where it's just like it was always there and you fed it and it tainted you.
I was just talking about like with the mirror in general, with the difference between the anime and the manga. It's just interesting the way they placed it with Nehelenia and to be that infection when in the manga it's not. We don't know anything. We just know that the mirror is in the palace and
Right.
has always been there.
Right.
Because that's mentioned. The mirror has always been there in its own room.
Well,
So
my
I
thing
just
is,
find that
was
interesting.
Nehelenia was in the palace and then she put her in the mirror, right? Or did she come out of the mirror?
She came out of the
Out of the
mirror
mirror.
when she was presenting the princess. She
Uh,
literally boom,
Because
boom
I
out of the
remember
mirror.
Serenity, because I remember like when Sailor Moon goes back in her memory, she remembers Nehelenia's mirror. You're right. She
Mhm.
does come out of the mirror. I see it now.
Yeah, she like
It's a kind of like a blink and you miss it moment because it's very dark and grainy, but you can see the
Yes.
outline of the mirror.
and
Okay.
that's like the mirror was always in the palace and
Right.
this and that. So it's interesting because the mirror was involved in the moon palace, but you go
Hmm.
to the anime, it's
Mm,
not. That mirror is
Yeah.
all a part of Nehelenia, and it's never mentioned that it was
mm.
in the moon palace in the anime at all. That they
Yeah. There's
never
no ties other than
well,
that one
there's really
particular
no
moment.
ties in general. Once we got
Mm,
past R,
mhm.
there was no flashbacks anymore to the Moon Kingdom like they have in the manga. Like
Right.
for some reason, the anime, they never tied it back like they did in the mangas. It's
And I wonder if that's like definitely a production choice because even PGSM got away from the past lives of the Silver Millennium. And while there were some flashbacks, there were some inconsistencies and stuff like that, their whole thing was like, we're getting away from our past lives. We're not going to do what we did back then.
but it
And it's
flashed
never
back
fully
all the time
explained.
though. Because, like, with her turning into Princess Sailor Moon, it would
Yes.
constantly, like they would flash back to it, but the girls were like, "No, thank you. I don't
Yeah.
we don't live there anymore," but it kept, like, flashing back to what history they had in PGSM, because that was, like, the kings trying to wake themselves up because Zoisite remembered, but the rest of them didn't, and that sort of
Right.
thing. So I think even they had more flashbacks than the 90s Sailor Moon as it went on. They just fuck the Moon Kingdom, essentially. There was no references anymore. Like, they would like, Chibiusa would say something about the future,
Mm-hmm.
but they wouldn't talk about the Moon Kingdom. They didn't even restore the Moon Kingdom like they did in the manga.
Right.
So it's like, I think there's a lot of missed opportunity in the 90s anime because of the fact they didn't grasp some of the main things from the manga that they should have kept in there.
I think
That's
it's
a big thing
also
because we would have had a better connection, I
exactly
think, with Nehelenia also. With,
right.
wait a minute, I fucking remember you.
I also think that when you're a woman in a man's world in the 90s and you're trying to get your story adapted, and you're like, but this is important to the plot. This is why I wrote it in the story. And you're like, yeah, but you're a lady. We know better. This is for young boys. They don't care about the princess and the prince. And we're just not going to include that in. I think I try not to say, like, I get a lot of comments about, oh, Naoko was pissed off or she was salty. And I'm like, we're talking about Japanese people who are very respectful, regardless of when they're being disrespected or not. So I was like, even though she was not happy with the choices and she did state that she was not happy, she still was respectful in her response. And so I think
Yeah.
when we tried, so I think
She was
I try to
always
be very
telling
careful. Yeah, I try to be very careful about characterizing Naoko's sentiments towards the 90s anime because it was an incredible opportunity for a story to be adapted. But I feel like she might have been overlooked and unheard because she even had to. That was the whole reason why the Snow Kaguya arc was created. She wanted
Yeah.
more involvement in the movie making process, and she was like, she was not happy with, and she said she was not happy with the R movie because they weren't her character that
Mhm.
were created. Aelin Han and the Cassinian Blossom and Fiore are anime exclusive characters. They were not characters that she created. And she was like, and they were like, oh, it's not, all the movies are standalone. They're not tied into the show or the canon whatsoever. And
Yeah.
that's why she ultimately wrote the Snow Kaguya arc because it was like, I want to be more involved. I want to have more creative control. So it's like she saw some opportunities to capitalize on her story and to get more involvement in the anime process. But I feel like she was also circumvented from being involved in some of the creative choices that they made. And I think that's probably what ultimately fed into why we got the Crystal, Eternal, and Cosmic movies the way that we got them.
I could see it. It's a good art. It
and
makes
been a
sense.
little bit more
Yes.
involved with some stuff
And
as the years have gone on because she has more power in it. She's been like, no, or yes, I will draw this. And then we get
right.
like these beautiful drawings, but then she's
Right.
no, we're not going to do this. And what could happen if she says no?
Yeah, and it's all speculation too. And I think that's probably where Osabu comes into play. I think because he is a man, he was advocating for her, but people were listening to him because he's a man. And I never truly understood the dynamics between men and women in Japan. I worked as a host at a restaurant here in Las Vegas years ago. And I had a coworker named Miharu, and she was the sweetest girl I ever met in my life. And we had a party of Japanese men come into the restaurant, and she came to me crying, and I'm like, "What is wrong?" And she was like, "The way these men are talking to me just makes me really upset." And I'm like, "What'd they say? Let's go handle this right now." And she was like, "Please don't do that. It's fine. It's just the way it is." And I never truly understood it until I put it into this context of Naoko living in Japan, having to basically either accept what men have to say in this industry and get in where I can fit in. So I think the dynamics are very interesting in that respect.
And then it reflects in the show.
Exactly.
It reflects with what we've been talking about with how much confusion there is compared to the manga that we got.
And then to get to go a little bit more back on our topic for the
Yes.
night. A comment I really liked was from I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Rogrella. I think there's more similarities between Zirconia and Beryl since both answer to more powerful entities. Except with Zirconia, she's basically answering to herself. I think that's a really interesting way to
Because
look at it.
Natalia.
Mhm. Yeah, so there's almost more power to Queen Nehelenia when you look at it like that.
Yes. Because I think, because Beryl is also, she's manipulated by an entity. Like her
Mhm.
feelings are amplified and she is transformed to do what she ultimately ends up doing, whereas Nehelenia kind of empowers herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see other comments. This good ones from Arona. Galaxia would have had more minions if she didn't kill them off every other week. Not wrong.
All you gotta do is your job and you'll live.
Just don't answer.
I said bring back a true starseed. You're bringing me nothing.
Don't get on the phone booth.
Somebody's getting fired.
Oh my god. Oh, and then Loki coming in with a good one. The mirror was a gift from Galaxia, in my opinion, changed my mind. That's just a good theory. I love to hear those.
That would have been good for the anime since they, like I said, they never tied back to the Moon Kingdom with that mirror.
Right.
I think that would have been a really cool little tidbit to have.
Yeah. And Galaxia goaded Nehelenia into creating that mirror.
Yeah.
And we don't know how old Galaxia is.
True. Very true.
So that would have been like a cool anime one to do.
I agree.
Just a funny comment from Erda. Something I heard once was 90s anime is official fan fiction of the manga, and I can dig it.
Because not just Sailor Moon, a lot of 90s animes where you were like, I don't remember this in the comic. Because they just made up their own shit, and you're like,
Ixie. All right. But other than that, do we want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Queen Nehelenia and Queen Serenity specifically. Their relationship, I just want to go back into it for a minute. The way Queen Serenity acts towards Queen Nehelenia is unlike the way she treats anybody else that we see in all of the Eternal movie or the manga.
because she's just ice cold, like instant, like her eyes go like just blank. And you don't really see that, like even when the whole war was going on. You don't see that.
And I wonder if that's because I wonder if past trauma led to that cold-hearted Serenity. But when she met Nehelenia, she softened by the time Silver Millennium came along. I know what chaos is about. I know darkness. I'm not even going to entertain it at this point. Let me just seal you away because I came here for a reason.
And it's just, there's something interesting. I know we talked about the dark side of the moon, light side of the moon, and it could have been like one of those, but I also just think, what if she's meant to be like her opposite in every way? She's the more selfish version. Trying to think of where I'm trying to go here. I have a thought, but it's like circling.
It also reminds me of, sorry, I'm a big
No,
X-Men
please go
fan.
for it.
Go ahead.
I'm a big X-Men fan, so I'm always like into like lore and explanations and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if you are born from the Galaxy Cauldron, that you are born with light and dark inside of you. And maybe Serenity expelled that darkness from her to where she is pure light. And that darkness became Nehelenia. And maybe that's one of the reasons why she has like this cold gaze at Nehelenia, because she's, I know who you are and what you are. You are the darkness that I promised to get rid of. And here you are rearing your ugly head. So if you don't know to go away on your own, let me seal you away. And the darkness is, oh, I got you. I'm going to curse you with your very own darkness and watch everything that you built crumble.
I like that. That's that would be so good. Why did they lead? I would want them to lean into it now. Someone write a fan, please. Like,
There probably is one.
There probably already
There probably is.
It's
I am with
like
her.
I said, the image that they show is literally them back to back being mirror images of each other. And if you look, Nehelenia is also the only villain with the Odongo and two of them.
Right.
True. I didn't
You
think
know,
of that.
I think it's funny that people like try to say like Queen Serenity is the real villain or Princess Sailor Moon is the real villain of a show. And I think as a mother, what would you not do to protect your children or your child? And I think that's the thing where it's like, we don't like, and I'm not a parent, mind you. I am a big brother, but I'm not a parent. And so I think that in this day and age, especially, it's like, I think that parents make choices, the best choices that they can, and not always the best choices in those particular instances. And I think it's a matter of how you take accountability for it. And so I think that Queen Serenity basically, like, if it wasn't for Queen Serenity, none of this would have happened.
True.
If she let everybody die the way that they were supposed to die back then, there would be no Sailor Moon story. And so I think it's like one of those things where it's like when we talk about fate and destiny, where things are meant to have canon events, where we talk about things happening, I think it's all a means to an end. I think even Nehelenia, if she is like truly tied to Queen Serenity in that way, she knew that this was all a means to an end. Like Chaos knew that in order for this to happen, in order for basically Sailor Chaos to be born in the distant future, these events need to happen in this order in order for it to come to fruition. And I think it's definitely a big picture type situation. When you tend to focus on one aspect of what's going on, it's easy to say, oh, it's their fault. They should have did this, they should have did that. But it's like, I would ponder to guess, would I make the same decision? Like for me, it's like, if it was somebody that I truly loved and I knew their life was in danger and I had a way to save them, would I not make that choice, regardless
Yeah.
of the repercussions of it? I would venture to say, yes. The best choice? Probably not. But in that moment, I was trying to protect and save someone that I truly loved and cared for. And that's what mattered at that point in time.
Yeah, and Loki coming in right with you, agreeing. I think Mama Serenity did the best with the info she had.
And yeah, exactly. And she knew, like in the manga, like she knew, I'm pretty sure she had an idea of what chaos was. And I
Mhm.
think and I think that's like what fed into it too, is like probably part information, part trauma, whereas I know where this darkness leads and I'm trying not to go there. I would love to see what she went through. I'm pretty sure she was a Sailor Guardian at one point in her life. And who
Yeah,
knows what she lost. She's the sole person to come away from the Guardian. Guardian Cosmo did not mention anyone else besides Serenity coming back. So it's like, what really happened?
yeah, we have no idea. It's completely blank. And then Oda coming in saying, she approaches things in a very black and white sense of morality from what you're saying, and how Usagi is such a great morality. Really, just damn, now I'm thinking.
And I think even, yeah, I guess that is what I'm saying. It's given what Serenity knows and what she's experienced, it probably was is like, I know what darkness is. I know darkness is evil. And I guess for me, it's like mincing words at this point because it's like manga Sailor Moon is not like anime Sailor Moon.
No.
She killed Nehelenia.
Yeah, straight up.
So I think it's, we have to be very mindful of who we're talking about because while Nehelenia died, she tried to save Galaxia.
She does try to save her, but she does it for her own selfish reasons.
Yes. Yes. Now that you put it like that. Yes.
That's what I would just think. Sorry, just
Yeah.
bounce it off. Yeah. As you have anything you want to put on Mama Serenity?
I was trying to find the image of them being back to back, and I cannot find it
I
on
couldn't
Google.
find it
I
either.
have the manga right here.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
if
in
you
the
don't
manga.
mind.
Like the moment they meet, I was
Well,
like, why can't I find
I
this
was
image?
just looking at it.
Yeah, it's like a very specific, and nobody has it online. I was like, really?
I know. It's what I
There's
was
not
like,
even fan
looking
art of it.
everywhere.
There's not even fan art. I'm like,
Oh, perfect. Hang on. Let me make you.
You see it?
yeah,
Uh,
it's that middle part where they're standing back to back,
yeah.
and always been my theory is like how you were talking about like the X-Men thing. Like she either expelled the evil, or it was her twin sister, or
Right. And I said that because Professor Xavier has been known for being a pillar in the coexistence and human mutant peace. And we learn that he barricades the dark aspects of his personality away, and it manifests as a dark shroud. And then ultimately, like when he, like in this battle between Magneto and he like shuts down Magneto's mind, the dark aspects of Magneto mix with the dark aspects of Xavier, and we get this character called Onslaught. So I think and that's like the mentality that I'm getting from this whole Queen Serenity, Nehelenia thing, and I think something similar happened in Once Upon a Time. I'm a big Once Upon a Time fan, where Regina, she's on this road to redemption, but she's still tainted by the evil deeds she done as the evil queen. And so as a way to like reconcile that, she separates herself from the evil part of herself and she destroys it, and it remanifests, comes back to life, and basically terrorizes her. But it's like she ultimately ends up like, and I think in a kind of like a Nehelenia Sailor Moon type way, where she ends up accepting the darkness and lets her live rather than killing her. And I think I think in the manga, and I'm glad you brought up that the parallel, the mirror image between the two, because Nehelenia is asking Queen Serenity to accept darkness. She didn't ask her for anything else. She's like, take my hand, accept the darkness. So I think it's like, and I think it's like a message to anyone, like as much as we try to be virtuous and kind and nice, we have dark aspects of ourselves that we are prone to exhibiting. And I think it's like very cognizant. It's really, you can't reject it. It's your humanity. It's part of who you are. You don't have to act on it, but you need to accept the fact that you do have those dark thoughts, intrusive thoughts all the time.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every damn day. Because you just look at this person, you're like, wow, bitch. You're like, don't say that out loud though. But yeah, it's very much the aspects of human nature where everyone's got darkness. There with that, where there's light, there's dark. Where
Yes.
there's darkness, there's light. That's the whole parallel thing. And I think Nehelenia is a really good example of that with Queen Serenity. Because
I
like I
think the
said, there's
story
there's
also
lots
comes
of
full
theories
circle.
out there of what she is. Because they never, like I said, they never really come touched on why she walked out of the mirror like that.
Right.
Or why the mirror was in the palace. And she's powerful. She's a powerful being, but like Serenity, the moment she sees her, it's like knee jerk. She's like, you need to get your ass out of here.
I like how the story kind of comes full circle in that sense, where it's like we have two ends of the spectrum, where we have Queen Serenity, who made a decision to dispel darkness and live in a world of light and prosperity and stuff like that. And I think like most things, like it's doomed to end. And Sailor Moon is presented with the same choice at the end of Stars, where it's like you can no longer allow stars to live and keep this battle from happening, or you can allow stars to be born and chaos will ultimately remanifest. And I think rather than take Queen Serenity's approach, Sailor Moon did the exact opposite. I think even Sailor Cosmos realized that because I think Cosmos represents Serenity, whereas I know, and sorry, my brain's not going. What if Sailor Cosmos is Queen Serenity? I never thought of it like that. Like maybe so that's
She
what
got
I'm
the white
saying. Like
hair.
that's what I'm saying. Like maybe Cosmos, and I'm throwing out a theory there. Please don't tear me up in the chat. I'm just throwing out a theory. My brain is just going.
You don't have
But
to
it's
worry
like,
about our chat here.
but Sailor Cosmos, depending on the translation, she comes from a far distant future. But my thing is, time is very elusive in the Sailor Moon universe. So maybe that far distant future is probably the far distant past. And Queen Serenity was a Sailor Guardian, and she was Sailor Cosmos. And she gave up her powers to become Queen Serenity and live in a world of light, free of chaos, because she lost everything. Remember, Sailor Cosmos said she lost everything. So did Queen Serenity. She walked away with one star. So I'm wondering if that is that full circle moment and I think that time elusivity thing that's going on, where it's like Cosmos went back to stop her daughter from making the choice that she made because she knows what happens, but then she ultimately learns everything happened the way it was because that's the way it's supposed to happen. And she goes back to wherever she came.
I'm going to piggyback off of that and bring it back to Nehelenia. So with Nehelenia, it's because she was near the Galaxy Cauldron and that's where chaos is. So chaos touched her. So when she went back, she had a bit of chaos that she had to cast off. And there you go, Nehelenia.
There you go.
Oh my God.
Maybe that's what it was. Like maybe in that battle with Sailor, chaos somehow touched Cosmos and boom. She, like, I guess in order for her to dispel that darkness, she gave up her powers and to expel the darkness from her.
Or maybe have a better control on the silver crystal because the silver crystal was made while she was in the cauldron or
Right.
near the
Ooh.
cauldron. Because she was near the cauldron when she wished for a baby.
What if the silver crystal is like a splintered version of a star seed that was like expelled of darkness? That's why it opened up like
It
that
looks like it
because
fits
she
inside
got
of
the
a.
darkness out of it.
Several star seeds that crash together within the chaos because it's so powerful.
By the way, here's the picture that we were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Una.
They're
for
even
getting
the
this.
same. They're even the same height.
Dun, dun, dun. And then Loki saying, no, it makes sense because Cosmos is uncharacteristic to Usagi, but to Mama Serenity, she is 100% on the marker to me.
And then Loki's got
Yes.
one more.
Ooh, Cosmos Serenity expelled her darkness into Usagi, which is why Usagi has gray morality.
And maybe that's what it like ultimately is. But it's like the silver crystal is also an enigma in itself because it's like the manifestation of a star seed. But my thing is like Queen Serenity gives it to Serenity. So I'm like, do you need a star seed to live or not?
Plus, and then here was
We don't know.
that panel in the manga that you were showing.
Yes.
Yes.
They're perfect parallels. They even have
I think
moons
it's
on their
also,
fucking forehead. Like,
yeah. And I also think it's worth noting that Queen Serenity has a Sailor crystal in the manga. It's not a star seed. So I think it's safe to say that she was a Sailor Guardian at one point in time. Now, which one she was is a whole nother story.
That's a
I like
whole
the
fun.
idea. But I like the idea of her being Cosmo. It just makes sense.
I've never heard that theory, and now I love that theory.
Yes. I have to tell my friend Paul because we have been like Cosmos talking like on Instagram like over and over again.
No, that's a good one. That was a good deep dive. And then, all right, we have 12 minutes left, including wrap up. So we have one section that we wanted to hit still, and that was on Queen Nehelenia and Beauty.
And I know we touched on it
a little bit. Yeah.
earlier that I don't think, like in the anime specifically, I think the people's expectation are pushed onto her. She doesn't come off as this haughty, like arrogant, cocky, vain person. She's not vain until she's evil.
Yeah.
So I think I think that like a representation of like your insecurities or people's expectations amplified in such a way where it's like she was going around waving to her subjects, I'm beautiful, I was born beautiful, and I will always be beautiful. They were telling her that.
Yeah.
And I think
They were always telling her that. So that kind of.
yes. And I think her speaking to the mirror too, like making her wishes be known, like this is what my people want, therefore this is what I want. I think it was also her projecting those feelings into the mirror because she's touching the mirror when she's talking to. So I think maybe those words manifested themselves into the mirror because she's talking to the mirror. Mirror on the wall, please keep me beautiful forever. And the mirror's like, I got something better for you. And boom, where we go.
I think it was a big thing, especially with the anime when it's like showing her subjects. They keep mentioning her beauty.
Yeah.
It's very much playing on just the society in general. On when people are very pretty, they constantly hear it. So like I've had friends who they kept hearing it, and God forbid they didn't hear it anymore. Like it became their personality, and it's a big thing that they show that because it is a lot of pressure. on keeping
Right.
yourself pretty, especially when that's what society's trying to portray is pretty.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it hits really deep. I think Nehelenia really hit very deep with me when it came to that because it was you can't like people making you constantly look in the mirror. And that was the thing was she was constantly looking in the mirror instead of looking around her. And that obsession becomes even more obsessive.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really good thing to because I they didn't really have it in the manga,
Hmm.
but they had it in the anime with her and that obsession with her own beauty and looking in the mirror. So I think it was a really good lesson when it was out and the time frame it was out where yeah, she's pretty, but she's ugly on the inside, which is what they showed was her
Hmm.
true image that, that creature would pop up in the mirror to scare her.
Right.
Uh, that while she may have been pretty on the outside, she was ugly on the inside.
And we
Yeah.
don't know what Nehelenia's personality was like beforehand. So it's like she could have just been probably was like waving to the people, but it's like at the same time, she probably could have been evil or what have you. Like maybe she was very vain, or maybe she was like very naive. I think that was more representative when she's talking to the mirror, where it's like this naivete, where it's, oh, the people said I'll be beautiful forever, mirror. So that's my wish. And I think there's this innocence about her in that episode. And I think that's ultimately what gets taken away from her
Mhm.
is that you will not always be this way. And it's like when that's all you kind of rail against that idea where it's like, you're
Mhm.
like, okay, what do I have to do to stay this way? And,
I'll do anything,
and yeah,
you
I'll
know?
do anything because this is what is expected of me. I think it's like very reflective of how society is now. People do the stupidest things on the internet just for attention. And there's no rhyme or reason behind it other than the attention and which leads to the behavior where if I continue to act this way, I will get what I want.
Mhm.
And I think that's reflective of Nehelenia, where it's like, in order to get the praise and the attention and the comments, I need to do this. And in turn, she ended up destroying the very thing that gave her what she wanted. She
Mhm.
ate the dreams of her people to keep this youth and beauty, and they were like shadows of themselves. She didn't get any satisfaction. She wasn't hanging out with them by the pool.
Mm-mm.
They were like crazy and out of their minds.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, no, it's so sad when you think of it that way, like, that her ultimate goal, she got the opposite. Alright, and any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Hands down the best villain. She got cheated with her season.
Yes.
Alright, Naz, you wanna bring us out?
All right. And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you for joining us for the 6th episode of season 3. We'll be going on our next Mooney adventure on June 15th with our special guest, Much Hotness Cosplay. We'd like to thank tonight's special guest, Grayson,
Thank you
uh,
so much for having me.
the Sailor Moon guy. So please go ahead and plug yourself.
Awesome. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. My name is Grayson. I am known as the Sailor Moon Guy on TikTok and Instagram, Sailor Moon Guy on X/Twitter. I do mainly Sailor Moon edits. I am also the co-host of the Double Moonlight Justice podcast. I'm on all major platforms. So feel free to join me and Z as we do our own little take on the Sailor Moon universe. I definitely appreciate this is my first guest feature on the Eternal Mooncast, so I'm very excited to like break that ceiling and enter into the guest host sphere. So I definitely appreciate you having me. And this was great. I definitely really enjoyed myself and I hope to come back.
Of course.
Definitely, we had a
That's
ton
what
of
we
fun
like to
having
hear.
Great.
As always, our fellow Moonies, make sure you follow us on all of our socials. You can find those in our link tree in the description. Again, I'm Azira, your co-host. You can find me at all of my stuff at Azira_witch. I have come back to streaming. Last Saturday was my debut. I am using a PNG tuber that my wife, the Comfy Witch, has designed. So I'm really happy to be doing this. We're going to try and keep it at like once a month for our podcast because it gives us a lot of time to prep. So we have this great show for you guys because Michi is fantastic. Michi does all of this stuff. I just come here and sit here and look pretty. Okay.
Good job.
Um,
You're amazing.
So does my wife. My wife is the one who puts the graphics together for Michi.
Yeah,
Like I
like
said,
this
I just sit here and
one.
look pretty and talk about Sailor Moon. That's my job. So I'm really excited about the way we've done our schedule. It's been working great so far. We've had amazing guests like Grayson, fantastic. It was so fun to talk to you tonight. It's really amazing when we have just a dynamic that keeps going and we can just have a fluid conversation and, of course,
Yes.
argue, not like clashing opinions that forward the conversation. So I am really excited to also be coming back as a Twitch streamer. And you guys
Oh.
can catch me tomorrow at 4 o'clock on mine.
So 4 o'clock.
It's right there. Azira_witch is where you guys can find me.
Yeah. And then, as always, I have been your host, Michi. You can find my personal socials at MEW21 for Eternal Mooncast. Previously recorded content of our show comes out Moony Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. For Bishojo Senshi Slumber Party, the reactions are up for free on Patreon, and our next discussion episode will be June 1st. We appreciate any likes, comments, follows, or however you would like to support our show in your own way. We do read all the comments on YouTube. As a quick reminder, these have just been our personal opinions, and we celebrate all respectful Mooney opinions here. We're working hard on the show to be a place for Moonies to come together and discuss their theories and their love and passion for Sailor Moon. Remember, as Queen Nehelenia once said, I shall never doubt the power of innocent dreamers. I should never doubt the dreams of innocent children. Good night.
Good night.